What is going on, YouTube? So today in this video I'm going to be showing you guys how to install a Ford Racing adjustable clutch cable. Ford no longer sells their non-adjustable cables anymore, which sucks because that is the epitome of clutch cables when it comes to clutch cable Mustangs. So I originally took out the UPR clutch cable of this car when I bought it. That's what it came with, and then I got like I said, a Ford adjustable clutch cable here, but the first one I got stretched within 3 pulls. I'll attach a picture of what it looks like. And then they sent me a replacement one. I don't even know if I should waste my time even installing this, but for some reason it came with these ARP bolts. Hey, I'll take it because my replacement, you know, it's shipped back as long as they don't charge me for it. But anyways, if you guys are going to do this with a adjustable firewall adjuster, you need to go ahead and just modify this quadrant section right here. So we have to get rid of this rubber piece, and to do that we need to take this Dremel and just Dremel. There's 4 little white nubs, you can see them right there. It's like a little X shape or a cross now. So let's take the Dremel to this Taiwan cable and see how long this one will last once we get it installed. This little cable holder here, this actually mounts into the engine bay. You can leave yours. I just pried mine off because my car is coyote swap. It's easier to route without this. I have a tubular K member, so I'm gonna route it in the K member and not use this. So you can put that to the side. So like I said, we're just gonna take the Dremel and the Dremel those little white nubs. If it will focus. Yeah. Yeah, we're just gonna follow those little white nubs down, and this rubber piece will come off. So just do that to the other 3, and the black will come off, and this cable will actually slide into your firewall adjuster, no problem. So yeah, once you get those nubs filed down just a little bit, you can actually take the rubber piece off completely, and then you can get better access. And now what you want to do is just file these down flush. So with those nubs filed down, this cable will actually slide right into the firewall adjuster with no issues. So if you guys have a adjustable firewall adjuster, it's a tongue twister, then you will have to modify this end of the cable. And if you don't, then don't mess with it at all. So now I'm gonna jack the car up, and we'll go ahead and unbolt the UPR clutch cable from the clutch fork. And that just involves jacking up. You can do it with the driver's side only, and then it's on the driver's side of the bell housing. Just get down there. It's you have a jam nut and a locking nut. Just gonna break those free, and once those nuts are off, the cable will just slide forward off of the clutch fork, and then there's a small spot. This piece right here goes into the bell housing. It's like a little mount, and once you get that all off, you can actually pull the cable from up top, unless you've got it mounted with your firewall mount right here, then you will need to unbolt that. And then you can pull all the slack up top. And it's the fun part, working underneath the car, and then trying to get the cable off either the factory quadrant, or in my case, aftermarket 3-hook quadrant. So let's go ahead and jack this thing up and get this clutch cable out of here. So what I like to do is jack it up on the frame rail on the driver's side, and then crawl underneath the front of the car, and it's a straight shot. You can see the clutch cable going through the bell housing and into the clutch fork. So in the case of the UPR cable, it's an 11 and a 13mm wrench that will break those nuts free. So let's go ahead and get started. So like I said, the jam nut's an 11 and this locking nut is a 13. So we're just gonna go ahead and back this nut off. And then now we'll back off the jam nut. So I'm gonna go back with my 11mm with this ratchet wrench. Speed things up. We're actually tightening the cable. Go figure. We'll get started now and loosen it up. And if the cable wants to spin with the nut, you may need to use a pair of vice grips to hold the cable in place. But usually you can hold the cable by hand and work the nut off. Actually, looky here. You can just unscrew the cable off the jam nut. Put some slack in the clutch fork. Yeah, we'll just do this then. Because the whole cable can rotate. It's inside this liner, so you don't have to worry about anything getting kinked. This cable is probably just completely rotating all the way up to the quadrant. So this works very good if you can't use a pair of vice grips. There we go. I think this jam nut's just, where I've tightened it, has just wedged itself in the clutch fork, so I could work that thing free. It's wanting to come out. There it is. Yeah, it's just jammed in the clutch fork. So we're going to set that aside. We're going to go ahead and push this part out of the bell housing. Like I said, mine's just routed through my tubular K-member, so I'm not using a mount. So we'll go ahead and pull this cable from the quadrant now. Okay, so here's the fun part. Go ahead and fold the back part of your seat down and raise up your steering wheel, just like that. And put your seat all the way back. And the way I do it is I go in like this, like I'm a NASCAR driver. Go in, and then I put my feet in the back seat, just like so. Helps if you're skinny. And now we're going to go underneath the car. And get this cable off the quadrant. So now that you guys are down here with me, we're just going to reach up in this quadrant, grab the cable. You can see it right there. Like I said, mine's a 3-hook. I had this one on a 2nd hook. And now the cable is free. I'm just gonna run it out the firewall. There we go. And now we're gonna work our way back out of here and pull everything out from the engine bay. Okay, since that was disconnected from the quadrant, you can actually just pull that cable right on out of the firewall adjuster, just like so. Now I'm gonna snake. Watch the battery. Don't want to arc on it. So there we go. This is the UPR adjustable cable. And one thing I have noticed with this cable is that it's actually a little bit shorter than the Ford racing cable. So I'm gonna try to get everything lined up just about the same, but as you can see, it is much longer. But anyways, I'm gonna keep this UPR cable on standby because it's served me well so far. And now I want to go back with the Ford cable. And you guys are probably wondering, if this cable stretched on you once, why are you going back with it? I'm just hoping that was bad luck and that this cable will work. Because I'm thinking my UPR cable is starting to stretch just a little bit. The engagement's just not as good. And I'm constantly tightening the jam nut, even with Loctite. So hopefully with this cable, I won't have to worry about it. And hopefully, who knows, maybe later down the road, Maximum Motorsports or Ford will start producing the non-adjustable cables. There is a Pioneer brand of clutch cable that's non-adjustable that some people say works good, but apparently the liner of this sheath for the actual metal cable is Teflon lined with the Ford cables, and that's like a natural lubricant. And the Pioneer cables do not have that Teflon liner, so people recommend pouring motor oil down the sheath, and that's what lubricates the cable. And I think that's just absurd. There's no reason you should have to use motor oil to lubricate a clutch cable. It should be a Teflon insulated, so you won't have any binding. But who knows? It's just nowadays everything's just cheap. So I just now noticed that there is not a locking nut with my Ford cable unless it fell off in the box. So it looks like I'm gonna reuse the locking nut for this Ford cable. We just got a jam nut. I'm telling you, quality control has went downhill so much, and those are not locking nuts, but I'm glad I have them. So anyways, let's go ahead and back this jam nut off because it's going to be in the way regardless, and then we can go ahead and route our clutch cable in place. So the best way I like doing this is just laying the cable in the engine bay, and then don't completely feed it down yet because you want just that little bit of cable coming down so you can actually route it the way you want it. So I'm gonna turn my flashlight on. Crawl down here. I'm gonna show you guys how I routed mine. Okay, so here's the cable. I have it routed with this part going through the bell housing. I have it going in between the oil pan and the motor mount part of the tubular K-member. And the way that works, it kind of just runs in a nice streamlined curve. I'm gonna go ahead and feed this through just like so, and now I'm gonna run the cable, give it some slack to the top of the car, so that way we have enough cable to actually work with the quadrant. So it turns out the locking nut is a different size or thread pitch versus, with a locking nut for the UPR cable is a different thread pitch than the Ford adjustable cable. So I can't even reuse this nut. So if I was to have not had this bad cable to have returned already, I would have been pretty much a sitting duck right now, unless I just happened to have a nut laying around that would have worked with the Ford cable. But the UPR locking nut will not work with the Ford cable. So luckily I still have this stretched cable, and I still have the jam nut and locking nut from this old cable, so we're gonna reuse those. And then I don't even know if I feel comfortable putting the new Ford cable in the car, because like you guys have seen, quality control is just, it's severely lacking. I mean, this is pitiful, but I'm already this far into it, so let's just get it over with, I guess. Still have my UPR cable if it comes down to it. Okay, so now that we're reusing my old Ford cable's locking nut, what I'm going to do is just go ahead and get the locking nut, or the jam nut and the locking nut started, so I don't have to worry about, when we're working with the quadrant, pulling this cable out of the clutch fork. But we want to put both these nuts, actually you can probably just put the jam nut at the very end of this, so you have plenty of slack to run up against the clutch fork, and then we'll do our final adjustment once it's set in place in the quadrant. So go ahead, run up your jam nut on the last couple threads. So as you can see, I have the nuts threaded at the very end of the cable, and now we'll pull the slack up and hook it up to one of our hooks on the clutch quadrant. Crawl back inside. Gotta love it. Okay, and now that we're back underneath the car, look at your quadrant. Look up. You should see your cable. And if you don't see your cable, that means you need to get back underneath the car and feed the slack. It helps a lot if you have someone outside the car to help you. But I'm gonna try to reach up here and grab the cable. I don't know if you guys can see it up there, but I have it in my hand now. And it does not look like I want to be able to use my third hook. So we're going to have to just use the second hook. And then we're going to adjust at the fork. Once this is in the hook, the second hook here, you guys can see I'm trying to feed it in. Okay, there we go. So we're in our second hook now. And if you do have a third hook, make sure that the cable is running inside the hook of the third one as well. That keeps everything in line with each other. So yeah, just double check that the cable is in that hook. The cable is in line with all the other hooks. So say if you were using the third hook, you'd want the cable to be running in line with the third and second hook. So with this, I don't have enough cable to actually use the third hook. I wish I could, because I prefer the way the third hook feels. But second hook, it's in place. You don't have to fight with it. I don't want to sit here back and forth messing with this quadrant cable, because being underneath the car is so uncomfortable. So now that that's hooked in, we're going to finalize everything. We're going to go underneath the car and adjust everything at the clutch fork now. And another thing is, if you do have a firewall adjuster, make sure you turn it all the way to the right. That actually puts the adjustment all the way in. That's actually the adjustment where it puts tension on your cable. So once you adjust at the fork, you turn it to the left, and it tightens up the slack in the cable. So it works opposite of lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. But make sure you have this adjusted all the way in, because you want that in as far as it goes, and then work it out for your adjustment. You don't want it already maxed out, or else you won't ever be able to fine-tune the clutch cable to your liking. Okay, so we're back underneath the car. Now what you want to do is put preload on the throw-up bearing. So just grab your clutch fork and push it up towards the car as much as you can. So now the throw-up bearing is actually touching the fingers on the pressure plate. So that puts your preload, because you want the throw-up bearing to be touching those fingers. You don't want an air gap. You actually want the throw-up bearing to be spinning. So once you have that clutch fork set up, go ahead and just tighten up all the slack here, and then we'll go up to the firewall adjuster and adjust it from there. Okay, it turns out with the Ford cable, both the locking nut and the jam nut are both 13 millimeters, so you have to use two 13s, and then you can actually lock those into place. And then once you have your preload set on your clutch fork, those nuts tightened up, we can actually focus on adjusting at the firewall adjuster now. So we're done downstairs and we're done upstairs, so now I want to work on the middle ground. Okay, so now we're going to tighten up our cable slack with the adjustable firewall adjuster. So what you want to do is run this silver ring all the way up against the white piece, and I'll show you guys here in a second. See how that's flush now? Now grab the cable and try to pull it back as hard as you can. If it doesn't move, or if it doesn't create a gap, back off on the adjustment just a little bit and leave a small gap in between the white piece and the firewall adjuster. Some people like to leave a dime size. I like mine a little tighter than that, so I have a small gap. That's the way I like my adjustment. And now you guys are ready for a road test. Make sure everything feels right. So I have my trusty UPR cable boxed up in case I need it ever again. So once you have everything in place, go ahead and adjust your seat back the way you guys had it, and then get a feel for your clutch. Make sure it doesn't feel like it's in a bind or there's any resistance. If you feel any resistance at all, that means your cable is in a bind. Work on your routing. If your car happens to have the same UPR tubular K-member as mine, if you guys route it the way I did, in between the oil pan and the motor mount part of the K-member, then it'll keep it off your headers, exhaust manifolds, whatever. and it gives you pretty much the ideal cable routing with no kinks or anything like that. But if everything feels good with the pedal feel, then take her for a road trip and see how she does, and hopefully it doesn't stretch within 5 miles like my previous cable did. So I have low expectations. Like I said, my previous cable stretched. This cable didn't come with a locking nut, so the quality control at Ford is terrible. I don't know where they source these cables from, but Ford needs to step it up. So anyways, thanks for watching, and hopefully this helps somebody out, and maybe it will deter people from buying the Ford Performance cable. So thanks again. Catch you next time. Okay, as much trash talk that I've given this Ford Performance adjustable clutch, I will have to admit it does shift really good in every gear, even at high RPMs. That's why I'm thinking my UPR cable is starting to stretch. But if this cable ever starts to give me trouble again, I think I'm just going to stick with the UPR cable unless I can find a stock cable. And the best luck you guys are going to have with finding a stock cable is one from a junkyard pullout. Yeah, I know it sucks, but I'm pretty sure the same cable for the 2 valves and the 4 valve 4.6s, like in the Cobras and Mach 1s, all those cables work between like the what is it, TR3650 and the T56 6-speed. Pretty sure it's the same cable. I may be wrong on that. I think even Fox body cables might work as well, but all I know is right now I'm shifting good, and if I start having issues that the firewall adjuster can't fix, and if I can't adjust it out at the fork, then this cable is going bye-bye. So anyways, I know I already said thanks for watching, but I just wanted to give you guys an update on this road test before I put everything together in this video. So like I said, as always, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more.